Good evening. This evening is our monthly meeting of the Board of Adjustment. While we are having to change how we operate, we are still committed to a transparent process and encouragement of public comment during our meetings. We will be accepting testimony from parties. If you wish to testify on a particular petition before us this evening, use the Zoom platform. Please use the raise hand feature. You can raise your hand at any time and we will recognize you at the appropriate time for the presentation of evidence for each case. If in person, please hand staff your speaker's card. Senior Planner Travis Newberry will be monitoring the hybrid meeting and will be asked to provide names of those individuals that wish to speak. I would like to call the meeting of the City of the Wildwoods Board of Adjustment to order. The board members present today are Bob Morris, board member, Kevin Lux, board member, Jim Van Nest, board member, Daniel Sides, alternate member, and myself, Jared Frank, chair for tonight's meeting. The Department of Planning staff present is Joe Vunich, Director of Planning, Travis Newberry, Senior Planner, and Robin Keefe, Planner. Brad Pryor is standing in for the City Attorney John Young, and Court Reporter Courtney Talman are also present. First, I offer into the record the affidavit of publication pertaining to today's meeting, December 15th, 2022, and take official notice of the zoning ordinance of City of Wildwood, including Chapter 400, Article 2, authorizing and establishing the Board of Adjustments, powers and duties. Now let me explain the hearing procedure. Please be aware that the information I am about to describe is also provided on the Board of Adjustment public hearing procedure handout, which has been available online prior and up to tonight's meeting. This hearing is informal in its nature. However, the meeting's proceedings will be recorded by a reporter for future transcription if needed. The petitions are called in the order listed on the agenda. As the petition is called, I will ask a Department of Planning staff member to read each request into the record. Thereafter, the Department of Planning will have opening remarks and a brief slide presentation. Then the petitioner or his or her representative will be asked to state their name, address, be sworn in the court reporter, and make a brief presentation to the board explaining the nature of the requested variance and present such evidence and witness testimony that may evidence the practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship that warrant the variance. The board will only consider the unique character of the property to determine whether they warrant the granting of a variance. Board members may ask questions to clarify the facts of the petitioner's presentation. When the board is satisfied with the material presented by the petitioner, the chair will then ask if there is anyone present or online who would like to speak in favor or opposition to the requested variance. Each speaker will be asked to provide their name and address, be sworn in, and then provide their evidence as oral testimony. Procedurally, the petitioner may request a continuance at any time during the hearing prior to a call for the vote in order to bring in additional evidence or testimony. The board may also continue the proceedings. After the submission of testimony and evidence from all interested parties, the board will ask a staff person to provide the Department of Planning's report on this matter. If requested by any member of the board, the petitioner, or any individual that is participating in person or online. Once all witnesses have been heard, the chair will call for a motion to grant or motion to deny with or without conditions, then the board will vote. At that time, the presentation of evidence relating to the petition is concluded and no further evidence will be permitted. The board may make a decision today. 4 members of the board must vote in favor of the variance for it to be approved. If a variance is approved, the petitioner has 6 months to obtain the necessary permits or establish the use, or it will expire. If the board's decision is unfavorable, the petitioner has the right of appeal to the St. Louis County Circuit Court. This appeal must be done within 30 days of the decision. Mr. Newberry, at this time, are there any questions? Hearing no questions at this time, the meeting will proceed. At this time, I welcome the department to please read the first request into the record, which will be followed by a brief slide presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the board, the first case is BA 31-22 Siad Alfarde, 1404 Wild Foxfire Lane, Wildwood, Missouri 63038. Requests an exception to the minimum yard requirements general for the purpose of constructing a 3-car detached garage, which is approximately 48 feet by 25 feet in size, or 1,076 square feet in area, upon the property located at 1404 Wild Foxfire Lane, locator number 21W 120062, Babbler Hills, Plat 3, Lot 31. which would authorize a front yard setback of 4 feet in lieu of the 50-foot standard from the private roadway easement, parenthetical Wild Fox Fire Lane. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415.090 NU Non-Urban Resident District Regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance. This request was postponed at the November meeting of the Board of Adjustment. The site is located in Ward 1. Prior to the presentation of a slideshow and testimony relative to this request, the department would like to introduce into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2, the Board of Adjustment from the City of Wildwood Municipal Code. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance. The file that has been developed and maintained by the department relative to this request, and all contents contained therein, including the department's revised recommendation report. And then finally, any testimony, exhibits, maps, or photographs provided as part of tonight's hearing on the matter. And as is noted in the advertisement, Mr. Chair, this particular case was presented at the November meeting. Although I believe Mr. Sides was not in attendance, the slide presentation probably would be beneficial from that perspective. And with that, I would like to turn the meeting over to Ms. Keith. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good evening. Our first case does involve a proposed garage, which would be constructed 4 feet in lieu of 50 feet from a private roadway easement. The subject property is located in northwestern Wildwood, just to the south of Babbler Park Drive, which is a state-maintained highway. It is in the Babbler Hills subdivision, which was platted by St. Louis County prior to the city's incorporation. The parcel of ground is a parallelogram in shape, and it is bounded on 3 sides of it by Wild Fox Fire Lane, which is a private roadway maintained by the Homeowners Association. The subject property is occupied by a single-family dwelling, and there are a total of 4 residents served by Wild Fox Fire Lane in the subdivision. The parcel of ground is 3.2 acres in size. And a particular characteristic of it is that there is a private roadway easement upon it that follows those 3 sides that are bounded by Wild Fox Fire Lane. And that is a 25-foot roadway easement within the property, and I believe it's 50 in total. The property is zoned non-urban residence district. And it is the northwestern portion of the lot is heavily wooded and sloped, while the southwestern portion of it is relatively flat and is open turf area. Here you see the site plan for the proposed garage, including its proximity to the roadway easement per code. The garage in the non-urban residence district should be set back from that green line 50 feet. The petitioner is requesting to be set back 4 feet. And I believe when we read into the record, we noted the size of the garage. It is 48 feet by 25 feet in size. Here you can see that the drive does, oops, I apologize for that. Try to use my pointer. Well, I got pretty far there. But there is ingress and egress at 2 points off of Wild Fox Fire Lane. As you can see in yellow, that is the driveway area. There is an existing garage on the other side of the driveway turnaround area. There's also a pool house on property and a swimming pool, and this is the existing dwelling right here. Here are elevations of the proposed structure. Here we have the eastern elevation and the south elevation. And here is the north elevation and the west elevation. And here is the floor plan for the proposed garage. This is the existing garage that is on site as attached to the residence. And this is the location for the proposed structure, which would be a 3-car garage with an additional storage area. This is the front of the residence. And here to the left, you can see the area in question. This is Wild Fox Fire Lane, and this is where the proposed garage would go. Both entrances to the driveway area are gated. And here we are looking towards the proposed location for the garage. And here we are looking at the front yard area. And this is Wild Fox Fire Lane, and this is Wild Fox Fire Lane. Here is the second gated entrance. Here is to the side of the residence. This is on the eastern side. And this is back behind the residence, looking towards the pool house and the swimming pool. This is back behind the pool house, looking at that proposed location. And then this is beside the pool house to the west. And that's another perspective. And another one. There have been a couple variance requests that are similar in the neighborhood. One was granted, however, there was not an existing garage on that property. The other one was denied. And here we see public support for the request. You should have in your possession tonight a document that was signed by all of the neighboring residents in the residences in the subdivision that are in approval. There was a couple residents opposed to the variance, but they are not immediately abutting the property. And that concludes my presentation this evening. If you have any questions, Director Vunich and myself and Senior Planner Newberry are here to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to call the petitioner forward, state his or her name, address, relation to the property, and then we'll get you sworn in by the court reporter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Saeed El Faridi, the owner of 1404 Wild Foxfire Lane.
Okay.
I have my architect who can explain the hardship.
Great.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and get you sworn in, Mr. Courtney, are you ready?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Stephen Feeler with FSA Architects in Kirkwood, Missouri. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us again. And
Just
listen to
more.
our-
We'll get you sworn in here.
Sorry.
Sorry. You ready, Courtney?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, what's your last name again, sir?
Pardon me?
Your last name?
Feeler, Feeler.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Feeler?
When we met last, we had proposed the design and the layout and,
Could
you
you
know,
speak
our-
into the mic a little bit more?
okay, our opinion was that we think by nature of the site and architecturally that where we're placing the building makes, much sense. If I was master planning that lot, I would locate the garage in the location that the client has asked us to. And it just makes sense from a communications point, a security point, a architectural point to locate the building adjacent and use the majority of the existing parking lot and driveway to allow this new parking structure, a new garage structure to take place. But with that said, we did go back and we've looked at, we came up with 7 items we think could be looked at as hardships. And we can pass out a copy. I'd rather go through it and just point out those items to you. And then if you want a copy of it, we can give it to you. But if we can,
Good. Yep.
if we can bring up the site plan and zone in on the client's site. This is fine, I guess. This site, the following ordinance, we're going to point out the 7 hardships that we see associated with this project. The following ordinance would require the new proposed garage to be located offset, askew, and in no direct relationship to the existing house. This would result in a fragmented site design where the new garage structure would not relate to the existing building and would result in an inefficient vehicular movement on the site. I think you can see right here, we tried to take advantage of the existing driveways, the existing entering into the existing garage, and we tried to use that in conjunction. And if you look at, a much bigger building in the site across Babbler State Road where a large house was built, this was the same type of, planning concept that they used. We have the garage opposite of the house, and there's a relationship there. We're reiterating the elevation of the garage for the new garage to match the existing garage. And again, I think from a practical standpoint, it makes sense. Hardship number 2, because of the roads located on 3 sides of their property, the building site has become more limited by its specific nature because of the requirements of the 50-foot setback on 3 sides of this property. None of the other 6 properties have the 50-foot setback on 3 sides. This was kind of the central site, and it was kind of the sacrificial site for this development. And because of the road that was put there, which, by the way, none of the subdivision pays maintenance for that road that goes across our client's site because they don't use it. It's not even part of the snow removal program. Okay. You guys can talk more to that, but there is virtually from that circle, that cul-de-sac, that court in the lower right-hand corner, no maintenance is done on the rest of that road at all. And matter of fact, that road is asphalt from that court to the property line, but after that, it turns into gravel. So it's not a communicating road to the existing house. Item number 3, the location of the existing house dictated the design and setting of the proposed garage building. It is no fault of the owner that they are limited by the existing siding of the structure in the original layout of the development. Number 4, their property is the second smallest lot in that development, but they have more hindrances than any other site within that development. The property is smaller than 3 of the 5 adjacent properties and has more roadways than any other adjacent property. Matter of fact, the court that I mentioned in the lower right-hand corner, that's another piece, another road or portion of a road that is on Syed's site and not part of anybody else's site. That court allows you to be able to go to 3 other sites, but it's on his property. You know, the court wasn't shared by all the other members of that community. It's solely on his property. Number 5, the property is the 3rd smallest acreage site of the 6 sites within the development. Number 6, the 50-foot front yard setback is applied to 3 of the 4 sites of the property, but his property has it on 3 sites, okay? Number 7, the side road nearest to the proposed garage location is a secondary site access to the adjacent property and is not, well, I mentioned that earlier, is not included in the snow removal and the maintenance by the development. So I think you can understand these 7 items places my client's site in a very special and a very, giving situation to the rest of the community. And if you didn't have that 50-foot setback along that southwestern border, I think, as you pointed out, James, last week, or when we met last, we wouldn't even be talking about it. The building is more than 30 feet back, or is approximately 30 feet back, just like it is on everybody else's site within the development. It's just that my client's site has a 50-foot setback on 3 sites, which no other site in the development has. And he bores the majority of the circulation to those 6 sites within the development. And when, the original planners of this site, you can't even get to the one site from this access road. They had to make their access to their property via the road below to the southwest. So is there any questions, please?
Yeah, this time we'll open up to questions from the board.
My understanding from tonight and from last month, to put this garage in a non-variance position.
Sorry,
would put
who's
it-
talking? Who's talking? I can't see.
Jim Van Nest,
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
to put this in a non-variance location would put it back behind the pool house. And on the other picture, back beyond the trampoline you see by the tree. The pool house itself, I think you've got your reasons, but I think Mr. Alfardi last time said that put it up where it is, puts it up where all the lighting is on the house.
Yeah.
And it also puts it, and the safety for his daughter
Yeah,
walking from her car, which will be in the new garage, to the house.
Right.
And if it's back behind the pool house, it would be less safe because there won't be the lighting back there, and she'd be going a greater distance in the dark. And I haven't been up there at night, but I'm sure behind the pool house, it gets pretty dark up there.
And if you could show the aerial, photograph of the site and pushing it back, gets it back into the tree line too. So it's like I said, the first day last time when I came here, the first day that we pulled up, even before he told us where he wanted the garage, we were like, garage should be here. And to push it back to the tree line, and it's just a disassociated design. It's made to be where it was, but the hindrance that my client has, no other site in the development has that. He's got a 50-foot setback on 3 sides. And it's, we can fall within the 30-foot setback like everybody else has on the side. And that's no problem at all. And that's what's been designed. It's just the hardship of the 50-foot on three sides of his lot, which no other lot has.
Mr. Fielder, do you know, or anybody in the department, what would be the true distance from the actual road? You know, setting all the setbacks and easements aside, road to closest part of the garage would be, do we know how many feet that would be?
I can make a guess on that one. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's about 12 to 15 feet away. It would be
From the
from,
actual
from the corner of that building. And again, that's on a road that isn't used by
Right.
anyone. It's not maintained. I think originally for whatever reason, when this plat was laid out, that house that is to the northwest of my client, I guess they wanted to provide them access to it, but their main access to their house is to Babbler Road. They can't have this back door entrance, which they don't use. They never do use. Nobody's ever used it, according to my client. And again, it's another hardship that they have to have a road on their site that feeds everybody else, but really doesn't feed anybody else.
And did we discuss last time, is there an HOA, an official HOA for this, for your neighborhood? And I assume because do you have all members of the HOA on board?
Yeah.
Or Mr. Alfred, yeah. Do you know the answer? Are all members? Because I thought on Robin's map, we had one that was not on there. We know, we heard from this.
I think there's one lot that don't have a house.
House there.
I believe there is a dwelling on that lot, but it is situated on Pond Road.
Is that house part of the HOA?
Not anymore.
Okay, so it's safe to say all HOA members are on board with this,
Yeah.
are okay with this.
If I'm not mistaken, he used to pay like $35 and then they took it off. Because he never, there's no reason for him to pay.
Yeah. And this may be a question for the department, but seeing that it's a private road, clearly we have documentation from all the HOA members. So if someone down the road wanted to widen that road, how would that process look? I mean, is it at that point? Do you know the answer to that? I'm just, again, I understand no one uses that road, but if one of these, if something changes hands to a new house and that neighbor says, actually, I like this using this road, it's also a little bit too narrow for my needs. I need to widen it. And now we have a structure very close to it.
Well, the proposed detached garage, Mr. Chair, is not within the easement. So the distance is being measured from the edge of that easement. So there's still, as you can see, some room within the easement proper to accommodate a widening. So
Okay.
the variance is just from the edge of the easement, not from the
Sure.
edge of
So
road.
we're still safe from any future needs of that road, essentially, which is
Certainly.
ultimately what an easement is for. So
And I would argue if there was an expansion of road and the garage was at the location requested by the property owners, then you widen the road to the south,
Other
not to the north.
yeah, okay. Just wanted to throw that.
From the architectural perspective, so it's a side entry garage on the existing house.
Mhm.
Was any consideration given to switching that to a front facing garage and expanding the garage out to the side rather than building a detached separate garage?
Well, I think you may have, it's very attractive to a house to have a side entry or a back entry garage. So I think, no, we didn't look at, because in our minds, this was the best solution. And to put a garage door on the front face of the building I wouldn't go that direction. It's a side. Now, people pull in, 3 of the neighbors, well, almost every neighbor can't even see into Syed's garage, okay? So to put it on the front face would just open it up, and, garage doors are not attractive views to begin with. You got a lot of clutter in the garage and a lot of storage in the garage. So that's why we thought, again, our design, somewhat shields and, mimics the elevation of the house verbatim. Okay, we're going to use the same materials, the same architectural style. And again, it's designed similar to what a lot of new homes are today, that you have a garage on one side, a garage on another side, and the driveway is common in between. And from, this lot will be shielded, this entry will be shielded a lot from the neighbors too, as opposed to turning it and pushing it back towards the back of the site where they have a full frontal view. I get from an architectural standpoint, I think this is the best solution. I think it's the best solution for the neighborhood too, as far as the aesthetics of the neighborhood. It looks like it was planned to be that way.
Any other questions from the board or Mr. Sides? I know you're online. Anything you've been able to keep up with everything? Okay.
Yeah, I was just trying to unmute there. Yeah, a couple questions. So it looks like this is underground electric in this area. Is that correct? Anybody that knows?
No underground
Yeah,
electric.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
He's asking about underground electric at the proposed site, or so you're asking?
In the area, I don't see any electric poles.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think there's any utilities over there. Yeah, and we could confirm that, but I just don't think that there's any over there.
Well, okay, do you know, the homeowner would obviously know if the utilities are underground in that area or if there's electric poles. And I can't see any electric poles. So if there's no poles, then it's underground. So,
Hey, you want to step forward and we'll get you sworn in as well. You could state your name and relationship, your address, name, address, in relation to the property.
My full name is Hind H. Ufla, and I live in 1404 Wild Foxfire Lane, and I'm his wife.
And we'll coordinate. Can you get her sworn in, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, his question was about the electric pole. There's one electric pole by the entrance of our subdivision, that where all the lines goes to all the houses.
Mr. Sides, were you able to hear that?
So basically from the entrance, it goes underground and goes to the houses. Well,
I see,
I asked that to get to this question is, have the utilities been marked to this point?
no, we haven't marked the utilities yet in underground.
Okay, I mean, that's going to be, to me, the deciding factor, and I guess I'm not quite sure.
Mr. Sides, Director Vunich would like to speak.
Okay, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Sides. Mr. Sides, I hope on your screen you can see the photograph that Ms. Keefe prepared. This is the area where the garage would go. And as you can see, Wild Foxfire Lane does not have any utility poles along it. It's just a clear sky, so to speak, from that perspective. And typically in these older large lot single family subdivisions, the 50-foot wide roadway easement also acts as the utility easement. They kind of doubled them up and just use it for all purposes. So I'd be very surprised if there was any type of utility easement outside that 50-foot width. Thank you.
Okay, well, I mean, it's the pictures that I have, it's very hard to see, and if it's true that the electric starts at the beginning of the subdivision and then goes underground, I mean, we really don't know where it goes, but I mean, you're gonna find out at building time anyway, so I guess, I mean, I kind of would have liked to seen that done during the planning part of it. All you gotta do is call 1-800-DIG-RIGHT and you can get a mark real quick, but that would be the only thing that I see as a problem. And I'm assuming that it's on a septic. I don't see that marked either, but that would be behind the house, I'm pretty sure. Other
I
than
would
that,
have to,
go ahead.
yeah, I would have to think that, you know, if there is a 25-foot easement along there, that if indeed there were any utilities, which I doubt, that it would be outside of that, but you're exactly right there. We will have to have the utilities located prior to construction. And I would hopefully assume that we don't have anything in that area.
And am I correct that it is on a septic service?
So you can-
Yes. And then it's directly behind the house on south of the pool side. Yes.
I think.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any other questions for the petitioner representatives? Anybody in the audience? I can't see the screen. Sorry, Travis. Anybody in the audience that would want to speak in favor or opposition to the request?
There are none in attendance on Zoom who have raised their hand. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Seeing none, anybody would like to hear an oral presentation of the department's report? Any final comments for the department?
Mr. Chair, and members of the board, as you know, with the postponement of this matter at the November meeting, we were hoping that the petitioners, the property owners and their architect would go back and look at either developing their hardship better or finding some alternative designs. Obviously, tonight, the architect has identified 7 items that they believe create a unique circumstance and a practical difficulty relative to the 50-foot setback. There were no changes to the design, so there has been no change to the department's report. Therefore, we are available for any comments or questions tonight, Ms. Keith, Mr. Newberry, or I. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any final comments from the board?
Eric,
Yes.
there's one letter that you have in opposition of the proposal from a neighbor. She was concerned about, or asked a question about, would you by any chance convert your garage now into a living? I mean, you don't have any plans down the line to convert that. You're gonna need you're asking for a 6 cars garage, right? 4 and 2. I mean, that's what you intended to be.
3-car garage
purposes
plus
only.
3-car garage plus storage room.
Okay.
And they will not have AC or heat condition like HVAC system.
I think Mr. Morris is referring to your existing garage that's attached to the home now. Will that become living quarters? Or will that?
No, that will still be a garage.
That's what this person is indicating you might be.
No.
Okay.
Any other final comments from the board? Any other final comments from the petitioner or his representatives?
Well, hopefully the 7 hardships that we have noted and identify work in conjunction with the design. And I know I've stated it before, that, it seems to work with the site. It would have been planned that way. If the house of the original people would have sited it, 10 feet back, we wouldn't be having this discussion either. It's just the hardship of where it was put originally poses this situation. But again, architecturally, development wise, subdivision wide, I think it's a design that makes sense, and without the 50-foot setback on their particular lot, like no other in the development, we wouldn't be having this conversation either. So we hope we've pointed out the hardships and our feeling about design and the site. So if you have any other questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you.
This time we will close the proceeding for a vote. Do I have a motion to approve, a motion to deny, or a motion to approve with conditions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Van Ness. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Side. We have a motion to approve. We will roll call. Mr. Sides,
Approve.
Mr. Morris,
Approve.
Mr. Lux,
Approve.
Mr. Van Nest,
Approve.
and I approve as well. Congratulations, your variance is approved. Director of Units, are we ready for the second request?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you,
Please-
Mr.
please
Chair.
proceed.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the second and final request tonight is BA 34-22. It's also the last request of the year. Kevin Calzada, 18443 Rigger Road, Wildwood, Missouri, 63005. Requests an exception to the minimum yard requirements general for the purpose of constructing an accessory structure, which is approximately 56 feet by 30 feet in size or 1,680 square feet upon the property located at 18443 Rigger Road, locator number 22X440070, Pine Creek Estates -D, which would authorize a side yard setback of 12 feet in lieu of the 30-foot standard. This request is contrary to the requirements of Chapter 415.090 NU Non-Urban Resident District Regulations of the City of Wildwood zoning ordinance. The petitioner is concurrently requesting a rezoning of the property from the PS Park and Scenic District to the NU Non-Urban Resident District via a separate process. This particular property is located in Ward 1. And again, Mr. Chair, with your permission, the department would like to enter into the record the following items. Chapter 400, Article 2 of the City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the Board of Adjustment. Chapter 415 of the same City of Wildwood Municipal Code, the zoning ordinance. The file that has been developed and maintained by the Department of Planning regarding this request and all contents contained therein, including the department's recommendation report. And then finally, any testimony that is provided as part of tonight's hearing, including exhibits, photographs, maps, letters, etc. Mr. Chair, with your permission, Ms. Keefe has prepared a slide presentation for your all's consideration. Thank you.
Please, thank you.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Our next case this evening concerns a proposed accessory structure for a subject property that is located in northwestern Wildwood and part of the Pine Creek Estates subdivision. Yep, there's the property. Here you can see Wild Horse Creek Road. The property is located off of Riger Road. Down here you can see Highway 100. The property is rectangular in shape. It's a narrow lot with a much greater depth of 912 feet versus its width, which is 209 feet. It is 4.36 acres in size. A special characteristic of this property is that to the west is land owned by the state of Missouri, and also behind the property to the north. This is part of Babbler State Park. And so there's no residences built there. Next door to the property is a neighbor with a dwelling upon it. And then to the south, there is a residential dwelling, but it is located on an alternative stretch of Riger Road. This property is currently zoned Park and Scenic District due to the fact that it was originally part of the park and sold by the state to private ownership. Currently, the owner is going through a separate process to rezone the property from Park and Scenic to non-urban residence district, which will dictate tonight's discussion regarding setbacks. It is occupied by a single-family dwelling. This property is located at the highest point of the subject lot with 100 feet of total relief towards the rear of it. It descends steeply north and east following two minor drainage ways. The portions directly surrounding the property are lawn turf area, while the northern 2/3 of the property is heavily wooded. This is looking to the northeast at the front of the residence. And this is the proposed structure to be constructed on the lot. It is an accessory structure that is 56 feet by 30 feet, or a total of 1,680 square feet in area. This structure is located or is proposed to be located 12 feet from the western side property line in lieu of 30 feet as dictated by the non-urban residence district. And I noted here the southern elevation, which is important to this case. There is an entrance located here on the structure. The property does have an existing retaining wall that surrounds the garage pad area for the existing garage and follows back behind the house. So the proposed structure is directly behind that retaining wall, and the entrance to it would be located here for the vehicle. The red lines show the property line. Okay, so this is a view to the north of the residence, and here you can see where it sits up upon a hill back from Riger Road. This is looking east on Riger Road, and this is looking west. This is the existing garage looking northeast. And this is the existing retaining wall surrounding that garage area. And here is another view of it, looking southeast. And this is the access around it to the existing driveway area, looking south. This is looking east. Here you see the rear of the residence, and then this is going further east so you can see the next door neighbor to the east. This is looking the other direction to the west. So this would be looking into the park property. And this would be the general area for the proposed accessory structure. This is looking north to the rear yard lawn turf area. This is where the proposed accessory structure would be. This is looking again west of Babler Park. Again, this is the general area for the structure. So there it has been one similar variance in the area. The department has received one comment in opposition from a residence who are, and it appeared from their comments, they are generally against variances of this nature. The department also reached out to the state of Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and they issued no comment. So with that, that concludes my presentation this evening. And Director Vunich, Senior Planner Newberry, and I are available for questions if you should have them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Key. At this time, will the petitioner please state his or her name, address, relation to the property, and then be sworn in by the court reporter, please?
Yes, thank you. My name is Kevin Calzada. I'm the owner of property at 18443 Rieger Road in Wildwood. And I'm the petitioner as well. Yeah.
We'll get you sworn in.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Calzada. If you could, please explain the nature of the request and the hardship or practical difficulty necessitating the variance.
Yeah, certainly. So I'll make a couple just overall points to start, and then I'll just show on the site map one of the more architectural uniqueness of the lot in relation to that retaining wall. But the first point as far as the hardship goes is just the nature of the narrow lot. As you saw, it's a rather large property, is 4.3 acres, but the overall width of the lot is only about just over 200 feet in width. So it really limits the options as far as placement with the current 30-foot setback requirement of the non-urban zoning district. Additionally, on the west side of the lot, where I'm proposing to reduce the setback, that we have no neighbors, as was noted. We don't have any. It's just owned by the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. And then the third point here, from an architectural standpoint, let me make sure I can share my screen okay here, so this can be seen. Is that showing up the screen?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. So the point that was made about the garage here, I'd show just in the site map. This is the proposed garage door in the building, and the complexity arises from the fact that with this current retaining wall, right now my goal is that I would like to have vehicle access into this proposed building through this garage. And if I were to increase this 12-foot setback up to the 30-foot requirement, it would be essentially set directly behind this current retaining wall. So it would make it impossible to be able to access with a vehicle from this side. So that's one of my key objectives with this building. And then the fourth and final point that I'll make as far as a hardship goes has to do with the zoning. I know you heard that we are in the process of a zoning change. And the history behind that is that when this property was sold from the Missouri Department of Natural Resources in the 70s, I believe, it was not rezoned at that time. So when I purchased the home in 2019, I purchased it under the zoning district of Parks and Scenic. Now, at the time when I purchased the home, it had a 0 setback from the side yard based on the nature of the zoning district. So that was one of the things that enticed me about the property, that while it was a narrow lot, I would have flexibility to the side to build because of that 0 setback requirement in the zoning. However, when I applied for the permit of this building, I was told by the Planning and Zoning Commission that the current zoning of my property was legal, but an error, I believe. That might not be the correct terminology, but it needed to be corrected. So as part of this process, I had to apply to rezone the property to non-urban. And of course, the challenge arises that in the process of rezoning the property, it has now changed the setback requirement from what I formerly had as a 0 setback now to a 30-foot setback. So under the circumstances, I would hope that I would still be able to certainly not use the 0 setback, but be able to reduce that to the 12-foot in my proposed plan.
Anything else, Mr. Calzada?
Nope, that is all for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Any questions from the board or the petitioner? Seeing none. Any members of the audience, anybody join?
Mr. Chair, none are in attendance via Zoom.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you much. Anybody like to hear an oral presentation of the department's report? All right. Any final comments from the department? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Sides, go ahead.
Yeah, so just a question about this new zoning. So this is in process, correct?
That's correct.
And is it expected to go through? Or do we know?
Yes, it seems that way. We've been through 3 months of hearings, and I've been working with Mr. Newberry here on that process. It seems that things are progressing, but it's not due to be finalized until February, as I understand.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Absolutely, Mr.
Thank you,
Newberry.
sir. Mr. Sides, the Planning and Zoning Commission has recommended approval for the change in zoning on the property. It will be scheduled for a public hearing before the city council at its January meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newberry. Any other questions?
Yeah, just a question for the city again. Assuming that the zoning change is approved, are there any other requirements or notes that your group would have as a result of that, or would that meet your requirements?
Mr. Lux, I don't have anything to offer
Okay.
to that question. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I would like to close the proceeding for a vote. At this time, do we have a motion to approve, a motion to deny, or approve with conditions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'm sorry, just a moment, Mr. Sides. I apologize. Oh, I apologize. Well, let's see if we get some final comments from the department.
Thank you,
Just a
Mr. Chair. The department is supporting this request. The lot is very narrow, and given the zoning, the change in zoning district and some of the practical difficulties associated with that and the existing retaining wall, we can see why this is why this can be supported. However, we are conditioning that you approve this variance with a conditioned upon approval of the rezoning from Park and Scenic to non-urban residence district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keefe. Again, I apologize. That was important stuff. So now I'd like to close the proceeding for a vote. This time, do we have a motion to approve, a motion to deny, or a motion to approve with conditions?
Yeah, I will make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Sides. Do we have a second?
I'll second with the condition, of course, passing the zoning change.
Mr. Sides, is that your motion as well? Was it to approve or approve with the conditions?
Well, I don't know how far we want to get into that. I really don't see how you can not approve it or stop this person from making the changes he wants with or without the zoning because of however we got to this shape in the first place. So I would have no conditions on my motion to approve.
Okay. We have I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Keefe.
If I may make a comment, as it stands today under the Park and Scenic District, and correct me if I'm wrong, I do not believe this accessory structure could be approved under the current zoning. So that is why we are asking that this be a condition of this approval of changing it to non-urban residence district where such a structure could be built.
Okay, well, I feel like we could get into a whole lot of back and forth on this, which I see no point in doing. It sounds like you're fairly confident that it's going to go through anyway. I mean, the house was built. The guy bought the house, he bought the land with the house on it. Now he wants to improve the lot. And everybody seems to be in favor of it. There's no neighbors, no problems. So I stick with my original. Well, you're going to stick, it sounds like somebody's going to put the condition on it, on my motion that we have to have the rezoning first. But that's not my original motion. So I guess somebody else is going to have to remake the motion.
I need a little assistance here, Mr.
Certainly.
Genius, as to the proper way to proceed then.
Let me
Again.
withdraw my second.
So with the withdrawal of the second by Mr. Van Ness, if there's not a
Okay.
motion if there's not a second of the motion made by Mr. Sides, it'll fail for such factor. And then another motion can be put on the floor. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor from Mr. Sides to approve. Do we have a second? Seeing none, that motion is denied. So we'll again call for a vote, motion to approve, deny, or approve with conditions.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve with the condition that the zoning be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Lux. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion to approve with conditions that the rezoning proceed. Mr. Morris, how do you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Sides?
Approve.
Mr. Van Nest?
Approve.
Mr. Lux?
Approve.
And I approve as well. Congratulations, your variance is approved with the condition that the property is rezoned to non-urban residence district.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on the agenda for this evening? Director Bunich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. From the Department of Planning, Ms. Keefe, Mr. Newberry and I, we appreciate your service this year. Obviously, we can't do it without you. And I think we all would collectively wish you a happy holiday season. Thank you.
To you as well. Thank you.
Yep.
As chair, I vote to adjourn. Thank you.
Do you need a second for that? Not really a vote.
I approve.
Thank you all.
Happy holidays.
Thank you all.